Ships pass peacefully through the Suez Canal as negotiations continue on operation of the waterway, seized and now controlled by Egypt. India's V.K. Krishna Menon arrives in London for a 22-nation conference on the Suez problem. America, represented by Secretary of State Dulles, wants international operation of the strategic canal. Russia's new foreign minister, Shapilov, and Ambassador Malik back Egyptian control. Egypt herself boycotts the international meeting. At Lancaster House, Britain's Prime Minister Eden represents the nation chiefly affected by the fate of Suez. Through it, most of England's fuel is carried from the oil-rich Middle East. At the showdown session, 18 countries defying Russian objections support the American plan for international operation, and talks move to Cairo on a solution to the Suez problem. Riding a new crest of popularity over the Suez crisis is President Gamal Abdel Nasser, Egypt's clever, ambitious strongman. Frenzied, cheering crowds greet Nasser wherever he goes in Egypt. By playing to Egyptian patriotism, Nasser has shifted his people's attention from their hunger and poverty, problems which Nasser has failed to solve. In Suez, he has created a crisis and an emotional weapon to stir the passions of 23 million Egyptians. Long live Nasser, shouts Egypt. And as Gamal Abdel Nasser shrewdly fans the flames of nationalism, the shadow of a dictator grows longer across the restless Middle East. Forest fires become weapons of war in Algeria. Soldiers are joined by firemen as 300 acres of pine trees go up in flames, threatening the suburbs of Algiers. The blaze was set by Algerian rebels to divert French forces from military work. A desperate fight fails to stop the flames. They roar on for hours, burning several homes before the firefighters gain control. Reinforcements are called to fight a fearful new kind of terrorism in strife-torn Algeria. The biblical city of Hazor emerges from the dust of antiquity as archaeologists uncover silent remains of its glory. Workers carefully chip away at crusts of time. Some of these ruins belong to the 18th century before Christ. It was Joshua who conquered Hazor, capital of Canaanite kingdoms. Canaanite inscriptions still remain on some of the stones. Hazor was lost, won, and lost again by the Israelites, who left remains of their everyday life intact after many centuries. Solomon rebuilt the town, and today the biblical city of Hazor is making history again. In Seoul, Syngman Rhee is inaugurated for the third time as president of South Korea. Children come forward with flowers for the 81-year-old statesman who, in his inaugural address, declares that unification remains divided Korea's foremost goal. A parade of the country's armed forces highlights the celebration. While military vigilance continues, South Korea also plans for increased productivity by farm and factory in the 5 years ahead. Commandos take to their kayaks in Australia to assault a sheer cliff at the edge of the sea. The boiling surf holds no terrors for these tough and trained shock troops. They skillfully make their landings, pulling their kayaks ashore on the treacherous ledge at the base of the cliff. From the landing place, the leader begins the climb, inching up the face of the cliff with hardly a place to hold on. It's 200 feet to the top, where he throws a rope to the others. Quickly, the rest of the assault group scrambles up the cliff. It's a crushing drop to certain death on the rocks below if anything goes wrong. But the commandos have muscles like cables and nerves like steel. Over the top, and the mock attack begins by Australia's courageous commandos.
To one Wing Sum, the simple art of writing is not simple at all. It's a form of Chinese culture, and his unique work has won the praise of scholars and statesmen in many lands. One is a calligraphist, carrying on a form of elegant writing that in Chinese history is closely associated with painting. On his wall are perfectly executed examples of his work. A magnifying glass is needed to examine one's miniature writings, so tiny that a paperclip encircles 19 characters. One is the master of every kind of historical Chinese script. Here, mixing his ink from black paste and plain water, he will exhibit the skill and grace which make his writing a work of beauty. After thinning the paste, the 33-year-old artist picks up his heavy brush. One will combine 4 ancient and modern Chinese characters to make a simple sentence. With sweeping brushwork and flowing strokes, he works on the first calligraph, 33 centuries old. It means tree. The second word, equally as old, is water. The third, more recent in origin, is bright. The word moon completes the sentence. A tree by the water, illuminated by the bright moon. Next, one will display an incredible proficiency at miniature writing, removing his glasses, surprisingly enough, before starting the delicate work. Using a pen many times bigger than the letters it will form, he bends close to the paper. Between a match head and a paper clip, he is writing USA, 1956. The pen seems motionless, but the letters take shape on paper as now the A appears. The lynx-eyed calligraphist, as one has been called, works with astonishing muscular control until the infinitesimal inscription, all but invisible to the naked eye, is done. The relation between painting and calligraphy is illustrated in one of one's watercolors. The insect's tentacles are actually a short poem in little English letters. French, Spanish, Siamese, Malayan, one speaks and writes them too. And here he has inscribed a verse on the whiskers of a grasshopper. A master of minute precision, dedicated to the preservation of Chinese culture, Wan Wing Sun is a true artist of an ancient and unique art.
Yesterday, a billion yesterdays mingle in the timeless Alps, where a modern ski lift soars above snowy crags formed millions of years ago. These are the world's most famous mountains, sweeping 660 miles from Italy to Austria. Sportsmen easily scale the Austrian Alps on the world's highest cable railway. It serves tourists, the Alps' main industry. But dwarfing man's cable cars is the majestic scenery and the glacier that carved the valley and sculptured the peak. Scientists are frequent visitors to these rocky realms, the most carefully studied of all mountain chains. Among the peaks are found huge caverns. Probing their vast interior, scientists uncover new chapters in the fascinating story of the Alps. Like the mountains, the icy caverns are the mute remains of titanic upheavals that rocked the earth and churned the seas long before the age of man. Thrown into place like pebbles in these furious cataclysms were the mighty Alps. Eons later came the ice. It still remains, decorating the caverns with its shimmering beauty, sculptured by nature's artistry. Ice, stone, and silence shroud the lofty Alps, majestic, unchanging, yesterday, today, tomorrow.
Off California, naval scientists enlist raccoons to unravel the secrets of the sun. The raccoon is a helium-filled plastic balloon some 70 feet in height, supporting a 12-foot rocket loaded with a television transmitter.
The raccoon is released and allowed to float free over the ocean. Its primary purpose is to study the effects of solar storms or prominences on radio communications. Radar tracks the raccoon until a solar storm is sighted. Then the rocket is fired from the balloon. Within 2 minutes, it is 70 miles high, flashing back television pictures of the upheavals on the sun. Amazing pictures such as these, showing the violent motion of the tremendous solar explosions. An unerring electronic brain and a far-seeing electronic eye bring the awesome solar eruptions before our eyes. For science, new progress in probing the mystery of the sun and its influence on the world around us. In the field of guided missiles, the DART is America's newest electronic marvel. Designed for ground-to-ground firing, the DART's speed, range, and might are top secret. Watch the target. These first pictures show the DART, triggered by its built-in brain, spinning toward another target far out of sight. The DART, in its tests at the White Sands Proving Grounds, scores with an uncanny accuracy. A B-50 tanker plane lets out its hoses for a spectacular mission, refueling 3 jets at one time. The first F-100 Super Sabre moves up to make contact, misses, and then has to drop away. The 2 remaining jets jockey into position behind the B-50. The pilot inches closer and closer. A slip can mean disaster. But finally, contact is made. One by one, the Super Sabres hook up to fill up. The mother tanker and her brood spread out across the sky, seemingly frozen in their tight formation. Refueling gives the fast little fighters a range comparable to bigger, heavier bombers. Breaking away from the tanker, the jets can now continue on to their next refueling rendezvous. Science has again made the dreams of yesterday become the reality of today in our supersonic age.
The sights and sounds of present-day San Francisco are left behind as these boys and girls enter the past and a miniature world of make-believe. A little land of little people brought to life at America's one and only Lilliput Theater, the smallest theater in the world. The lobby is a museum of model stages and cutout figures dating back 150 years. Introduced in England around 1800, Lilliput theaters were named after the kingdom of tiny people described in Gulliver's Travels. Once popular the world over, they are today an almost vanished art. But for children, there is an ageless enchantment in the Lilliput Theater. And when the house lights grow dim, this enchantment settles over us, too, as the curtain goes up on an old classic, Dick Whittington and his cat. The diminutive players glide gracefully on stage as the story opens in Cheapside, a district in the heart of London. Backstage, writer-producer Hugh Evans readies the entrance of another of his Lilliput actors, pushing it across the stage with a stick or wand. All movements are synchronized with the recorded musical background. It's a happy scene then when Dick Whittington and his cat Thomas appear. Though he is but a flat figure made of cardboard, he will soon win the hearts of his audience. Suddenly, a menacing figure, Alderman Fitzwarren, arrives. Fitzwarren hurls an accusation of stealing against the startled Dick, triumphantly waving before him a bag of gold coins. Disheartened and discouraged, Dick decides to leave London. This is the signal for the chorus to swing into the farewell ballet that marks the end of Scene 1. Scene 2 finds Dick asleep in Highgate Forest. Then the grand transformation, an elaborate Lilliput technique, transports him as if by magic into a gondola. Drawn by pure white swans, the gondola crosses an imaginary waterway on its journey to fairyland. The transformation continues as the butterfly bower, an intricately woven backdrop or scrim, is raised to make way for the flying ballet. So ingenious is the change, so wonderful is the illusion, that before we know it, we have passed under the lovebirds and entered fairyland. How real this world of make-believe becomes as a rolling mist envelops the stage and the graceful fairy dancers emerge to delight, as they did a century ago, the hearts of youth. Act 1 ends as Dick Whittington, in magic robes, hears from the good fairy queen that he will one day be thrice Lord Mayor of London. With aid from the wings, the prophecy, of course, comes true. And in the grand finale, Dick Whittington is proclaimed the Lord Mayor of London. Frank Bray, who works with producer Evans, moves the last of the little figures down the steps of London's great Guildhall. With a final theatrical flourish and a happy ending, the curtain comes down on Dick Whittington and his cat. The show is ended, but the enchantment is not. It will live on with the memory of the good fairy queen, Dick, and the very human Tom. And as long as the world has children, somewhere there will always be a Lilliput theater to make them happy. Came to pass near the valley of the Great Salt Lake one summer day in 1847. A caravan of covered wagons stopped to survey this glistening desert, and a little band of Mormon pioneers turned to their leader. Brigham Young, racked with fever yet strong in spirit, spoke out, "This is the place." This is the place, Brigham Young had said. And with eager hands and firm faith, the Mormon settlers reaped harvests from the soil and brought life to what had been a wilderness. They built a city, Salt Lake City, and it grew and prospered. They made it the capital of their state, Utah.
We'll find the place which God for us.
They erected schools and universities. They built a monument to the seagulls which came to destroy the crickets that one year threatened their crops. Their multi-spired temples rose as a symbol of reverence and rejoicing. And giving voice to their devotion are the 375 women and men of the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Their anthem, "Come, Come, Ye Saints."
We